Oh, yeah. So today we discuss Eddie Van Halen, Frankie.
James, I don't think you have to wear that this time.
Oh, thank God. I don't think Eddie Van Halen had a farmer's tan. Hey, James G here with Tarpley Music in Fort Worth, Texas. You can find us online at tarpleymusic.com. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. So, the famous Eddie Van Halen Frankie Strat. It's a really cool story of how this thing became so Frankenstein. Obviously, the whole Frankenstein thing coming from Frankenstein the monster, right? It's an incredibly cool story. So, the original parts Eddie actually bought from Mr. Charvel for $130. So the body was a $50 factory second, and then he bought the neck. And what he really wanted, though, it was a Northern Ash body. The neck had jumbo frets. But Eddie really wanted, he loved the Strat style body, but he really wanted that big, thick humbucker sound. And that really at the time, they were kind of two different animals. So what he basically did is he took a pickup out of his Gibson ES335 and then just stuck it in here catty corner to make up for volume, to make sure the magnets were lined up. And then that kind of started that whole sound. His original one had a Fender tram bar on, eventually went to the Floyd Rose. Eddie Van Halen is a big influence on the Floyd Rose, just a lot of the design aspects, like using the circular style tuners, because you would find these like on a violin or a cello. So these fine tuners became kind of circle, and they are much to deal with there. So, and the humbucker pickup at the time was a PAF, which is a patent applied for pickup that they had at the time. And so he actually painted it black. Then he put gaffer's tape across it, painted it white. He had it was a vinyl record that covered up the electronics. And for the electronics, he got rid of the tone pots. He just kept the volume pot, and he put a tone knob on it. The humbucker to the it's 500K pot to the input jack. That was it. That's all he has. And a lot of that was just because he didn't know much about electronics. He just knew he wanted that one sound, and so that's what happened. And then he took that vinyl record, and it was shaped, and he covered the electronics with that. That eventually became an actual shaped pick guard. And there you have it. That was the first Frankie, the white and black one. And so where did it go from there? Well, up until about 79, then he actually had the Bumblebee, which is the black and yellow one that you would see like on Van Halen 2. And the main reason for that, he was afraid he was just going to wear it out on tour, so he didn't want to use his original Frankie Strat. So he had the black, well, he wasn't real happy with that in 1979, so he went back to his original Frankie. He actually retaped it, and he painted it with red Schwinn bicycle paint because he thought it really popped. And there you go, right? So there were a lot of changes from that standpoint. In 1983, they got their first endorsement with Kramer guitars, so he actually put a Kramer neck on it, the short, real spiky, the Kramer neck, and you'll see that like in the Jump video. That was in 1983, and then, of course, that album, 1984. And so that was one of the first upgrades that did there. Eventually, this became a Seymour Duncan humbucker, and he changed for that. So a lot of this other stuff, people wonder, well, why is there, the switch, pickup switch is right in the middle. There's a single coil. These absolutely don't work. So a lot of people started trying to copy this thing. They're like, oh, we can copy the sound, we can copy this idea, whatever. So he literally put this in there to throw off imitators. So it's like, why is it there? Which to me is just great, because he's like, do what you want, man. I'm Eddie Van Halen. It's never going to sound like my guitar does. And anyway, so that was kind of how the Frankie, got to this point. And so where did he go from there? Well, there's a lot of different guitars then he ended up doing with Charvel and other shapes and stuff like this. So this one is kind of a replica of that whole thing, pre-Kramer neck, and then but still has the post parts and stuff like this. But from the specs of it itself, it's a really fast playing guitar. It's really hard not to just keep playing it if you have it. I mean, and I by no stretch have 0.6% of his chops, but it's still so fun to play. So original body was a northern ash body. This is actually a basswood body, and it is a quarter sewn maple neck. So quarter sewn, it's a different way. It's a milling term of that the wood is cut a different way, and it's not as easy to get, and it's a lot more stable. So there is a benefit to that. So it has that neck, and of course it's just kept maple fretboard. It's a 25.5 scale length. The neck is the EVH modified C to emulate that very first neck that he had. He still uses big O jumbo frets. Of course, the Floyd Rose. This actually has the Eddie Van Halen D tuner. So when this is set up, you can just flip the switch, instantly goes to drop D, flip it back, and you're back in standard notation, which is pretty much standard on his guitars since like 92, 93 to early 90s. You would always see Eddie have that on any guitar that he was playing. And so, obviously, rock solid tuners here, the same 4-way bolt-on neck. It's actually a brass block here. It's just a really great, well-made guitar. The coolest thing about this and why it's so fast is it's a composite radius. So it actually starts at a 12 and goes to a 16. It's very flat, very fast, flat service. So 12 to 16 fret radius to try to get those Eddie Van Halen notes, if you can. So just a really great overall guitar, but it really has that one function, and that is to get that Eddie sound from that. Now we're going through a Boss GT 1000 core here, and the setting is called VH on steroids. So it is his setup for that guitar, but it is definitely that tone. You literally have volume, and you got the humbucker. Because a lot of his tone change would be volume. When he would get those different tones. So fun to play. So if you're obviously a fan of his, this is literally could be a guitar that you would buy, put on the wall. It's just a pure homage. And there's a lot of guitars that is their function, and I think that's great. I think there's so many guitarists out there. Eddie Van Halen, come on, Rolling Stone actually put him as number 8 of 100 guitarists of all times. But from a hard rock, standpoint, tapping and a lot of things that he did as a guitar player, you could definitely argue that fact, as you could with anything, because it's all subjective, right? But on the flip side to that, if you really like playing that stuff, this does it, man. Between this, get the right pedals set up, and he generally was playing through his Marshall or, of course, his PV5150. He didn't really use an overdrive or distortion pedal. He really used the amp, and then from there it was his Phase 90 and those sounds that got. But man, it just nails it. So it's really cool to come in, take a look at it from a very close standpoint. You can see, especially put it A and B it with the picture of his. When he's playing it, you can see, all the markings, the way the tape is. Of course, this random switch that actually has wires on it but does nothing. And then this is just a single coil Strat pickup there. Of course, this has the modified pick over here, so it didn't cover everything. And of course, you've got true Floyd Rose. You can take it all the way down. Doesn't get more Eddie Van Halen than that. So anyway, but if you get a chance, come down to Tarpley, play this thing, and if you're a fan, you have to play it. But man, it looks really cool on the wall when we go out there. It just, you can't walk by it without Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen, it's such an iconic look and guitar. And there's because I do believe they also have they have versions of the original one before it was red and the bumblebees and stuff like that. So, but this particular one is kind of the aftermath of all that, minus the Kramer neck. It still has the original Fender because if Fender has done this piece. So it's just amazing. I hope you learned something about this guitar or Eddie Van Halen. It's such a really cool story, so much history on how it got to this point, and it started off at $130, so it's just amazing to me to hear these great guitar stories that started off as a real basic kind of inexpensive guitar and just became iconic because they just put so much love and time and think of the songs that it played. I mean, it's crazy to think, not this particular one, because we'd have security guards and stuff if it was the actual. In fact, I think there's an actual second replica in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't even think the actual Frankie is there because they said it's just there's no price you can put on it and it's priceless. So I don't even think the actual original one is even there. Could be wrong if that's changed, but at one time that was definitely the truth. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Eddie Van Halen, who tragically we've lost in the last few years, but will just forever remain in our hearts. Very important person to anyone who's ever picked up a guitar. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as more videos drop, just turn on notifications and you'll get a hold of them. See you on the next one.